What's good, family? It's your man, no YB, back once again. So, as you've all probably seen by now, Danny Garcia rolled up and smoked on Jose Benavidez Jr.'s pack nicely. I ain't gonna lie to you, at the start of the fight, Jose Benavidez Jr., he started out pretty strong and he just looked big, man. And I was quite surprised. I ain't gonna sit here and cap to you, man. Haven't been following Jose Jr.'s career to a large extent. I assumed he was a full-fledged 154 pounder. You might let me know what you think in the comments, but I thought it was noticeable how big, and he just looked like a weight division above Danny Garcia. And really, his best rounds, Jose Jr.'s, were the first 3 or 4 and the last round. In their middle rounds, he just got outboxed, bottom line, and it was quite frustrating, to be honest. Bearing in mind, the fight started, I've noticed how big Benavidez is. And I don't know, maybe I'm biased, but the minute I see a Nick, big and strong, there's an expectation there. Now, I ain't gonna lie, Benavidez was walking forward the whole night. I just weren't seeing the follow through. He was walking forward, applying pressure, and Danny Garcia was on the back foot, backpedaling the whole way, which was telling. And that's really, in my opinion, the only thing that made this a mixed decision. The only thing that made this fight close was the body language dynamics. Benavidez was the one pressuring. Benavidez was the one that was standing strong and dominating the center of the ring, and that's really what made the fight close. If yet based on punches, for me, Benavidez didn't do enough. He definitely lost the fight, but arguably it was his to win, given the size difference. I don't know why he didn't adopt more of his brother's style. His younger brother, David, guess what? He has that same, I got to give him credit. Jose Jr., great defense. Elbows in tight, chin down, hands up. Difference is, his brother, David, lets his hands go. This guy here was doing all the pressuring, doing all the posturing, no follow through. Way too many times I saw him sticking his tongue out and doing all the extra shit. Listen, that all the extra ish, yeah, that's fine when you're out here rolling packs up and smoking on them. But don't be standing there posturing with your guard up. It's like, I don't get that. Often we see fighters stand there, yeah, with their guard up, catch the shots, and then brag as if it means... Adrian Broner was renowned for that. Adrian Broner was renowned. And I'm not saying Jose wasn't as bad as Broner, but it's the same kind of ilk. Yeah, Broner was renowned for standing there, shelling up, catching all the shots, and then kind of saying, oh, none of them landed. Like, yeah, but you're getting touched. Do you understand? Defense is only one part of the game. You have to have both. Tight defense, and that's what, I've got to be honest, that's what David Benavidez, that's what he does better than his brother. He's got the tight defense, but much more combinations. For me, it was just lacking. And especially given the size, I just expected more from Jose. Even though, funnily enough, he actually came from 147 along with Danny. So I don't know why. You man, let me know what you think. But I just felt that Benavidez looked huge. Now, again, we know that his brother David is a 168-pound fighter. So he's got that big DNA, that big strong DNA. And in a way, maybe I ought to give Jose some more credit, because I'm sitting here talking about how his brother's more dominant. Then again, his brother, David, hasn't ever been in there with someone of the quality of Danny Garcia. So it's easy for me to say, well, his brother lets his hands go. His brother lets his hands go so far against C and B level fighters at best. Your man, Jose, he going in there with Danny Garcia, who's a low A-level fighter now, and people like Terence Crawford, who stopped him. They're top ticket guys. So we just don't know. Is it a case of Jose? And Jose did let his hands go to some extent. Just wasn't enough to win the fight, in my opinion. He got outboxed. This was a classic outboxing, in my opinion. And really, when you watch the 12th round, too little too late. That 12th round is how the whole fight should have gone. That 12th round, Jose had Danny Garcia backpedaling, and he was literally sticking it on him. I don't know why it seemed, and Jose didn't look like he was gassing. So I don't know why he waited to the 12th round. People are super weird. Again, when you're doing all this thing like sticking your tongue out and fronting, what's the point fronting? Saving it all up for the last round and then being confused when you're lost. Super weird ass dudes, man. Save all that other stuff somewhere else. Let your hands go. And really, I don't think Danny Garcia won this fight. I think it's evident. He was backpedaling the whole night. Jose Jr., he threw this fight away. This fight really was on a plate for him. Especially when you watch the last 2 rounds. Like, what were you doing the rest of the fight? I think it was clear Danny Garcia doesn't have the pop at 154. I mean, not being funny, at 140, Danny Garcia was known as being pretty heavy-handed. But since then, at 147, and now, obviously, if Danny Garcia hasn't been a puncher at 147, so he was never going to become a huge puncher at 154. And looking at the size, knowing that BENAVIDEZ Jose isn't a full-fledged 154-pounder himself, I worry, or I'm not sure where Danny think he's going with this, truth be known. I hope he don't think he's going to be doing something with Charlo. He will be food for Charlo. Too small. And it's scary how much 7 pounds makes, but really, I mean, look at Canelo. Canelo was dominating 168, 7 pounds. It was night and day. And I think it will be the same thing with Danny Garcia. I mean, Danny Garcia had all he could handle with Jose. Jose is really a B-level 154 kind of guy. Them top ones, I mean, Charlo will eat Danny up. He don't want that one. To be honest, I can see Danny getting stopped. Now, Danny is very skillful. He was able to negotiate the pressure from Jose the whole night. Very skillful. I actually learnt a lot about Danny Garcia's IQ in this fight. Now, I haven't been a huge Danny Garcia fan over the years, but I did learn and appreciate a lot of his IQ. He was able to read the body language of Jose, read when Jose was prepared to be static, and then tee off on him. Good, nice, ripping body shots and whatever else. Unfortunately, he just don't have the pop, bottom line. The work Danny Garcia was putting out, it just wasn't effective. At no point did we see BENAVIDEZ backing up, for example, which is a good telltale sign that someone's getting broken down. Danny Garcia didn't break him down at all. Now, neither did Jose. Again, I've already told you, Jose didn't do enough. Wasn't active enough. He had everything basically but his hands. Don't get me wrong, he was nowhere near as bad as Broner. His hands were going, but when you think about his younger brother David, he needed more of that David style, that more just letting him rip. And I think he could have proper bust up Danny Garcia, to be honest. Now, obviously for me, where does Jose go from here? I think his stock hasn't risen, but it hasn't dropped that much in my opinion. This fight was somewhat close. What he needs to do is go and take some of that stuff his brother be taking. I'm not talking literally of PEDs. I'm talking about the actual energy, the hand throwing. But like I said, the jury's out right now on his brother David. Yeah, David looked good against bums. For all we know, when David gets in there with someone the quality of Danny Garcia, he may end up doing the same thing, i.e. applying pressure but not being able to let your hands go. And that is, to be fair, what A-level fighters do. A-level fighters, the moves you can get off against B-level fighters. For example, we saw David BENAVIDEZ go in there with David Lemieux and just tee off on him with 30-40 punch combinations. Those kind of moves work or can work against C and D-level fighters. When you're in there with A fighters, they ain't going to let you get off a 30 punch combination. So maybe it's one of them ones where it looks easier on the outside. Because Danny, he was in between, he was punching. I mean, Danny's known as a great counter puncher. He was punching in between Jose's work. And I think he was frustrating Jose, to be honest. So maybe we need to give more credit to what Danny was doing to turn off. Maybe it wasn't the fact that Jose wasn't letting his hands go. Maybe it was the fact that Danny wasn't letting him. And Danny was firing in the middle of, I mean, it's not rocket science. When you go to get off combinations, if you get countered in the middle of that doesn't need to happen a whole bunch of times. Yeah, if you throw a combination punch and get popped, you're going to be thinking twice before throwing it again. And that's what I think caused Jose to seize up. However, for whatever reason in the 12th round, he overcome that and just started letting it go. And we often see that with fighters. Yeah, they almost... I mean, Danny Garcia is a great example himself, actually. Watch Danny Garcia, versus Errol Spence. Danny Garcia versus Errol Spence, he was super cagey the whole night. I think it was a 12th or 11th round. All of a sudden, Danny starts firing back. And all of a sudden, in that 12th round, the fight went from 80-20 for Spence. In that last round, it was 55-45. Super weird. And obviously, it shows it's all a psychological thing. Because if you can get dominated 80-20, 90-10 for 11 rounds, and then the 12th round comes, all of a sudden, the fight's going in your way in a huge, to a huge degree. These guys need to sort their head out. It's no good saving it all for the 12th round. What's that good for? You got to believe in yourself. You got to believe in your cardio, and apply that same level of vigor to the earlier rounds. I'm not saying you go in there in round 1 Mike Tyson style, but surely you've got to build up. If you're planning on saving it all for the 12th round, it's no good. At least the last 3 or 4 rounds. And who knows? Well, in fact, we do know. It was an MD. So if Jose had applied himself in them last 3 rounds rather than just the last 1, it would have been a W. And he had the great foundation. He was backing up Danny Garcia the whole way. Just didn't have that output. And Danny Garcia also, I mean, he's an accurate puncher. That's one thing that the Benavidez family isn't renowned for. They're more of volume guys, which is fine. There's 2 ways you can skin a cat: volume or accuracy. What you can't do is neither. And unfortunately tonight, Benavidez wasn't massively accurate, and he wasn't massively volume filled. But for sure, some people were saying, Jose's washed and he hasn't caught a W in X amount of years. He definitely ain't washed. I think he can learn a lot from that fight, to be honest with you. Although there are questions. How good is Danny Garcia? That's the real question. For me, the jury is out at 154. I actually think, after watching this, truth be known, I think Danny Garcia should sit down somewhere. Not because he won the fight. He got through the fight. I'm talking about realistically at 154. I don't see nothing sweet for him at that division. When it comes to the world, there's only one world champion, and that's Jermell Charlo. He's going to be food, in my opinion. And if Errol Spence pieced up Danny Garcia, what's he going to do with Jermell Charlo, a weight division above? It's a big no-no. And bearing in mind, Jose Benavidez Jr., I saw all the blueprints there. All the blueprints. He don't want that world championship level work. Now, from Jermell Charlo's point of view, Danny Garcia is a big name. He'll want it. I think Jermell Charlo will see Danny Garcia as food. But for Danny Garcia's legacy's point of view, I just think he needs to pull the Mikey Garcia card. I've done great, made great money, let me sit down somewhere. Really, Danny Garcia's career peaked in the early 2010s. Nothing wrong with that, but sit down somewhere. This whole going up the weights, you've already moved up 1 weight. There's nothing sweet for you. Fair enough. Sometimes in boxing world, because there's 4 belts, sometimes, Billy Joe Saunders has been renowned for this. Billy Joe's been renowned for sitting around the place and then, oh look, there's a belt there, and he goes and nicks a belt. If that was the case, let's say there was a vacant belt at 154. Absolutely, Danny Garcia should continue for that belt. But in the current state where the belts are all tied up and the person who's got the belt is a serious dude, no. I don't see what comes from this that's good for Danny. Apart from another L, a possible KO loss at that. Is he broke? That's the question. If Danny Garcia is broke, which I don't think he is, but if he was, that would make sense. Outside of money, what does anyone here really think Danny Garcia is going to beat Jermell Charlo? It's not. That for me is a 90-10 fight. He just went life and death with Jose. Do you understand? Get serious now. But yeah, good technical, good solid fight. Neither man, Danny Garcia boxed. Jose really was lacking that killer instinct, bottom line. He didn't really go there to really, you know what I'm saying? Jose didn't go there to really get it like that, bottom line. It was his to win, and he lost it. I almost feel, it wasn't on a plate, but I surely feel he lost it. In terms of a balance, who won and who lost it, I don't think Danny Garcia won the fight. I think Jose lost it, truth be known. But I'll be intrigued to see what you might think, no doubt.